Today's story is a bit different. Listen carefully. It was April 1862. The American soil was soaked in the blood of the deadliest civil war in history. On one side stood the Union of the North, and on the other, the Confederate States of the South. The war was not just about power, it was about survival. At a time when the Union forces were struggling to break the Southern defenses, a mysterious figure emerged onto the stage of history. His name was James J. Andrews. He wasn't a high-ranking general or a decorated soldier. He was a civilian, a secret agent. But the plan he carried in his mind was so audacious that even the bravest commanders of the time found it hard to believe. Andrews knew that the backbone of the Southern Army was their railway network, specifically the Western and Atlantic line stretching from Georgia to Chattanooga. Every day, thousands of Confederate soldiers and tons of lethal ammunition were transported along this route. Andrews devised an incredible conspiracy. He planned to penetrate nearly 200 miles deep into enemy territory, steal their most modern and powerful engine, the General, and race it northward. Along the way, he and his men would tear up the tracks, burn the wooden bridges, and cut the telegraph wires. If successful, the Southern supply line would be severed, potentially ending the war months earlier. But this mission was, in a word, suicidal. To steal a train deep within enemy lines was a death trap. To execute it, Andrews handpicked 22 of the most courageous and resourceful volunteers. He ordered them to shed their military uniforms and disguise themselves as ordinary civilians. On a stormy night on April 11th, amidst a torrential downpour, they slipped into the enemy stronghold of Marietta, Georgia, in small, inconspicuous groups. In a secret midnight meeting, Andrews looked into the eyes of his men and whispered, "Tomorrow morning, we will either become immortal heroes of history, or our bodies will be hanging from the trees. Remember, the fate of a nation is written in our hands tonight." No one slept that night. Between the cold shivers of fear and the burning fire of patriotism, they waited for the dawn that would change everything.
The audacious theft at Big Shanty. April 12, 1862. The morning mist had not yet cleared. The Big Shanty station in Georgia was just waking up. At that moment, the proud engine, the General, pulled into the station. It was the crown jewel of the Georgia railways. The train's conductor, William Fuller, and the passengers disembarked and headed to the station's dining room for breakfast. The Big Shanty station had one peculiar advantage for Andrews. It had no telegraph office. This was the cornerstone of his plan. He knew that if they stole the train here, the news couldn't be flashed ahead instantly. Even more dangerous was the fact that a large camp of Confederate soldiers was situated right next to the tracks. Committing this theft under the noses of thousands of armed soldiers was a feat only a man like Andrews would dare. Andrews signaled his team. 16 skilled men quietly slipped into the boxcars. Andrews himself leaped into the engineer's cab. In a matter of seconds, they uncoupled the passenger cars, leaving them behind. As the sound of the uncoupling planked through the air, Andrews pulled the throttle wide open. Suddenly, a massive hiss of steam and a piercing whistle startled everyone at the station. From the dining room, Conductor Fuller looked out the window and screamed, "My train! Someone is stealing my train!" Before his very eyes, the General began to pull away from the platform, belching thick black smoke. Before the soldiers could even level their rifles, the train accelerated and vanished into the dense woods. There were no horses at the station, no backup engines. An ordinary man would have given up right then and there, but William Fuller was a man of indomitable will. Without a second thought, he began to chase the speeding train on foot. People laughed, thinking he was insane, but that desperate run was the beginning of the longest and most breathless locomotive chase in history. The longest chase, from foot to handcar. Fuller ran like a possessed man for nearly 2 miles along the tracks until he reached a small junction. There, he found a handcar, a small rail vehicle powered by manual labor. He and 2 companions hopped on and began pumping the car with all their strength to catch a steam engine. Meanwhile, James Andrews believed they were almost home free. He stopped at various stations along the way, calmly telling station masters that this was a special Confederate train carrying emergency ammunition to the front lines. His acting was flawless. No one suspected a thing. They stopped several times to tear up tracks and cut telegraph wires to ensure no messages could be sent south. But luck was not on their side. That day, the tracks were unusually congested. Due to oncoming freight trains, Andrews was forced to wait at sidings for long, agonizing periods. Every minute felt like an hour. Their precious lead was evaporating simply because of a railway signal. On the other side, Fuller was advancing with superhuman effort. Along the way, he found a small, old engine called the Yonah. He was no longer on a handcar. He was now on a locomotive, chasing Andrews with the speed of fire. Several times, the tracks Andrews had sabotaged nearly derailed Fuller, but he refused to slow down. He could sense that the thieves were not far away. Just as Andrews was preparing to set fire to a massive wooden bridge, he heard the distant, haunting wail of a train whistle. He froze. A train was coming from behind? How was that possible? Andrews realized the war was no longer just about strength. It was now a war of pure speed.
Rain of Fire and the Unstoppable Texas. Andrews knew that it didn't matter who was behind them. What mattered was that they were running out of time. He pushed the General to its absolute mechanical limits. He tried a clever tactic. He uncoupled a freight car and set it on fire, leaving the flaming wreck on the tracks. His goal was to block the path and hope the burning car would catch the wooden bridges on fire as it sat there. But William Fuller had reached the state of near mythical determination. He had commandeered an even more powerful engine named the Texas. Driven by adrenaline, he flew across the rails. When he encountered the burning cars Andrews had left behind, Fuller didn't stop. He used his engine to buffer the burning car and pushed it out of the way while still at high speed. The most incredible part of this saga is that Fuller didn't have time to turn his engine around. He was chasing Andrews by running the Texas at full speed in reverse. A rain of fire and sparks flew from the tracks as the two metal giants roared through the countryside. Andrews' men threw heavy wooden ties onto the tracks to derail the pursuer, but Fuller maneuvered past them with uncanny skill. This high-speed chase lasted for nearly 87 miles. As they neared Chattanooga, the heavy rain made it impossible for Andrews' wet wood to catch fire. They couldn't burn the crucial bridges. The General was finally gasping for breath. Its coal and water were almost exhausted. The steam pressure dropped, and the engine began to shudder. Andrews realized that destiny had finally caught up with them.
The Sacrifice and the Mark of History. Just outside the city of Chattanooga, next to a dense forest, the engine of the General gave out its final breath. The massive train came to a clanking halt. James Andrews looked at his men. Their eyes were filled with exhaustion and the shadow of defeat. Andrews spoke in a low, heavy voice. "Friends, we have given our blood for this, but today, luck is not with us. Now, every man for himself. Scatter into the woods." The 22 brave men ran into the forest, disappearing into the shadows. But misfortune followed them. Within days, the Confederate Army, aided by local search parties, captured almost all of them. They were dragged to prison and treated as Union spies. Under the laws of war, being caught out of uniform meant they were not prisoners of war, but spies. James Andrews and 7 of his companions were sentenced to death. On June 7, 1862, Andrews was led to the gallows in Atlanta. A few days later, the other 7 met the same fate. Those who remained in prison later made a daring escape or were eventually returned in prisoner exchanges. The bravery of this mission shook the entire nation. After the war, when the Medal of Honor was first created, the members of this mission were the very first recipients of the medal. James Andrews, being a civilian, did not receive the medal, but without him, this daring piece of history would never have existed.